welcome to Wisdom 101. My name is Nick Guadagni, and my guest today is Nick Loffree, and he is a Qigong teacher here in Santa Cruz. And I found his work through YouTube and online, and I'm here for a Qigong training with Lee Holden, and saw that he's one of the senior teachers and students of the Holden method, and he's also created his own Bionic QiGong and his own system and way of teaching. And so I was very curious to hear more and thought that you would like to know more about it too. So thanks for taking the time to chat today.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you find Qigong? What brought you to it? What's your story with that?
Well, first, it was a long story, but long story short, I pushed myself too hard doing yoga, actually specifically my yoga teacher training. I've been doing yoga mostly on my own because I really actually was drawn to the esoteric and energetic sides of it, so I was practicing on my own for the most part, and then I wind up in this yoga teacher training and in a room surrounded by 25 beautiful women, and I'm the only guy, so I'm trying really hard to impress everyone.
I was the only guy in my teacher training too.
There you go.
Right on.
So I'm pushing myself really hard, and I could feel my body, the tendon pulling and saying,
snapping off the bone.
We're going to peel some bone off here if you keep doing this. And I'm like, maybe that's just what stretching feels like. So I just keep going and going. And I had an amazing teacher, and, he's telling me to do the exact opposite thing. I'm like, listen to your body, And I just kept pushing it. So when I got home, I had all sorts of, mostly in the legs and hips, just things that had been overstretched and tweaked. And so I went to a physiotherapist, and I'm like, you got to get me better because I just spent all this money on a yoga teacher training, and now I can't make my living doing it. And he's like, okay, well, does this hurt? Does this hurt? He's doing all these things with my legs, and I'm like, no, that hurts. He's like, when does it hurt? And I'm like, well, pretty much only ever feel pain when I'm doing yoga. And he's like, well, what does that tell you? you might need to take a break.
I see.
So I was pretty resistant to it at first, but I just so happened to have stumbled into Lee's stuff online at the same time, so I found it 7 minutes of magic. It's just like a 7-minute Qigong sequence, and I was really amazed with it because you didn't do any stretching or strengthening stuff like we usually do in yoga. It was just fluid, easy movement and breathing. I was just so amazed by how after 7 minutes, how amazing I felt in my nervous system. It was like my body had turned into clouds, and I went to bed that night just whoa,
nice.
Couldn't believe it. So I got pretty hooked. And I kind of subbed the Qigong for my yoga practice for a while, and then eventually I just loved the Qigong so much the yoga kind of fell off for a long time. But then I started working with Lee, and working with him online, doing private Skype. And he helped me with something I had. Basically, when I was a teenager, I was using a lot of psychedelic drugs, like LSD and stuff, having a lot of amazing spiritual experiences. But basically, at some point, the third eye or something opened up, but it never closed. So I came off the LSD, but it was like I was on a hit of acid all the time.
Right.
And sometimes it was really amazing. I'd be laying in bed at night. When you rub your eyes and you see the fuzz in your vision. I'd be seeing that all the time, but it would turn into patterns, and then that would turn into beautiful Indian, Hindu artwork and Native American artwork, all this stuff that I'm 17, I hadn't actually seen that stuff, so it was really weird. Shiva is showing up and stuff, things I hadn't actually seen pictures of, and then later it's whoa, that's the thing I saw.
Wow.
So some really cool experiences, and then a lot of I'm 17 and I'm trying to go to school, and now I can feel people's emotions around me and all this weird stuff like that. And that was kind of what led me into the yoga and things to reground. But basically, I went to psychologists and stuff, and they're drug-induced psychosis, you're psychotic, so here's some pills. And I was like, that doesn't totally jive with what I feel like I'm experiencing, but I'll do anything to kind of reground myself. So I took the medication, and I got a lot of health problems from it physically.
Right.
So all of that was kind of motivation to really figure out a solid, disciplined practice other than taking more LSD, which I tried for a while, and it didn't help. It had the opposite effect. So when I started working with Lee, actually it was over Skype. He was reading my energy, because I'm in Canada and he's in California, and at a distance he's like, oh yeah, your Wei Qi field, your guardian energy, so energy field around your body, is like weak and porous. So energy just kind of goes in and out. So you're having like, it's very easy for you to just absorb other people's energy and have this sort of empathic thing going on. So he basically just taught me Qigong, like specific exercises to like fill up that Qi field and connect to my energy inside and help to push it to the surface to fill up the energy outside. And like, it's just amazing how quickly it made a difference. And so I was like, okay, I gotta pursue this Qigong thing even further. So I came and did his teacher training. That was maybe 4 years ago. As soon as I did his teacher training, like his assistant was leaving for the East Coast, and I just wound up taking their job and moving to California and living the Canadian dream of living somewhere with palm trees and no snow.
The Canadian dream, I didn't know about that. That's cool.
Yeah, Canadian dream is to move to the warm parts of America.
I see. Wow, what a story. Interesting. Wow. Well, let's, I want to come back to the yoga, because I think a lot of people, I've gone through a yoga teacher training, or a few of them, and there is that kind of inherent like conflict of messaging, right? Where the teacher might be saying, don't push, just do what you can. But then, look how good this person is doing, and look how stretchy they are, right? And all the imaging and all of the success in yoga is like the most flexible person and all that. Yeah. It's very confusing, and like you said, it's kind of this sucking out of both sides of their mouth, right? And I'm seeing that too. And actually, the yoga world is coming to terms with some of the inherent conflicts, not just the power dynamics and the cueing safety and on and on. And I think a lot of people are looking for that kind of the benefits that we're all looking for, the energy and the flexibility and strength and all that, but perhaps in a way that's safer, and also people who physically maybe aren't looking for such a vigorous practice. It sounds like Qigong kind of is able to fulfill those needs without some of those risks. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. So many styles of Qigong, and some of them are nothing like yoga at all, like you don't stretch or anything, and some of them are extremely like yoga. So, like sometimes it's almost hard to differentiate. So there's a lot of variety within Qigong, so you can really fit it like exactly to the demographic you're teaching.
Got it.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, and so in terms of the Qigong that you like to teach, or what you've learned, where would you say it falls on that spectrum? How do you like to deliver the Qigong?
Yeah, Lee's is it's kind of in the middle. It's gentler than most yoga you're going to experience, but it's probably a little more of like a stretchy workout than most Qigong one would experience. He really kind of like tapped into the yoga-y parts of Qigong and brings them in. So there's a lot of that. He kind of divides his classes into two halves. The first half, you're stretching and warming up and doing things that might sometimes look a little more like yoga. And the second half, you're doing the slow, fluid, like stuff that looks a little more like Tai Chi. You're just cultivating energy and moving with relaxation. But he really just goes to different schools of Qigong and kind of pulls whatever movements seem useful to him. And then he turns that into, programs that are specific to healing this or that illness or this or that problem. And so he really has this huge just bag of tools, and his whole system is a system of tailoring things to people's unique needs, right? And then he tries to make broader things too, but I think that's kind of the beauty of his system, is it's not like rigid. It's not like, here's the 10 exercises we do every day for your life, right? It's like it's very flexible and fluid.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so as you took the teacher training, and as you became his assistant and started working closely with him and practicing more, what else transformed, or what changed within you?
A lot. It was really cool just like being around someone who put like a lifetime of practice into this stuff, and seeing how that came out in all his relationships and all his interactions. And I think the thing that always impressed me most working with him was his ability to like choose the frequency of energy that he wanted to have, like maybe that's from his Qigong practice in the morning, but every time I saw him, and he'd come into the clinic or come to a training or whatever, he was coming from a place of like the energy that he'd chosen. right? So he was choosing joy, and he was choosing love, and he was choosing happiness, and he was radiating that. So he was like the source of the energy that he wanted to experience, and that he wanted the people around him to experience. And so he's never like vulnerable to other people's bad days or other people's judgments or bad energies. It always just kind of like hits this field of like love and joy that's coming out of him. I just thought that was really cool.
Got it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, as you were saying, did you tend to be more porous, that you'd be more empathetic? Like if somebody's having a bad day, you'd start feeling bad, or somebody was happy?
Yeah, I was just a slave to whatever anybody around me was feeling.
Right.
Yeah. There was a time I remember being on the bus when I was like 19, and this kind of grungy looking dude, maybe mentally ill, homeless or something, comes and sits next to me, and he holds my hand, right? He's like, oh, and starts petting my hand, and I'm just like, oh. And instead of getting up, I'm just like, you can have that. I want you to be happy. And then he starts like kissing my hand and like rubbing on his face, and I'm just like, oh, you poor guy. And I'm just like, I had no personal boundaries at all, and all the people on the bus are staring at me like, why is this guy letting him do that? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
It was a whole bus ride. It was like 10 minutes just letting this guy hold my hand. It was really weird.
So it sounds like, did Qigong provide you with that type of energy, like you said, to be able to advocate for yourself, or to sense those boundaries a little bit more?
It really did, and in a weird way that like most people don't think about that stuff.
Right.
But being able to feel my own needs, my own energy,
right,
and emanate that out. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Well, I think you're really not alone in that. I mean, I think a lot of people are, they're compassionate, they're healers, they're empathetic, and whether or not it's a direct thing like somebody, in your personal space, or whether it's like somebody who's just taking all your money, right? Or somebody who's taking all your time, or somebody who like a friend will call you and just complain for an hour, and you're I think a lot of people are in that situation. I don't think you're alone at all. And what is it about Qigong that changed that energetic dynamic for you?
A lot of different things. I think one of them was, and it's all working with Chinese medicine, so like one thing, my lung qi was deficient. So the qi, the energy in the lungs, it's basically like your protective energy. Like they usually use the metaphor of like metal, right? So the metal energy is like very solid and it's sharp and has clear boundaries, right. And it kind of controls like your self-esteem and your confidence and your sense of like, I'm worth something and my needs matter. Sometimes they say the animal soul or the animal instincts live in your lungs. So like the animal like would never be like the bleeding heart, like, kind of thing for the most part, except maybe for like their kids. But for the most part, it's like, oh, I'm hungry, you're hungry, I'll fight you for that food, right? Because I deserve it, I want it,
Right.
So there's something to that. We often like look at that as like not being a virtue, but when you completely, absolutely suppress it, like it's not good for you, and it's not good for the people who depend on you. Because if you can't advocate for yourself and take care of yourself and manifest yourself as a powerful being in the world, then how can you ever be of any help to anyone, really? Like maybe you can help someone right now with like, venting their anger on you or something that like helps a little bit for a very short period of time. But like in the long run, we're humans. We're one of the only animals that lives 100 years. Right. We have a long time to do things, and we need to be able to take care of our short-term needs so that in the long run it can be more use. But sometimes these like energetic imbalances through these organ networks and things like that, sometimes those need to be like kind of refilled with the qi.
Got it.
Yeah.
And is there a different, like, how do you experience that? Like, what is the feeling when it's deficient or when it's full?
That's a great question. You could describe like the lung qi, for instance, when it's deficient or stagnant, it feels dull. Right? And it usually feels like depression, right? You feel like this weight in the chest. And it's funny, the Chinese have been saying depression is in the lungs for thousands of years, and you see people when their lung qi is deficient, right? It's like deflated, right? So, in Qigong we literally do movements that open that back up. We're like, let's just do the opposite thing that people normally do when they're depressed and see if that helps.
Right.
But there really is, for me, a sense of like some sort of like light or electricity or something like filling up in that area. And it's like just how you feel any emotions in your body, right? Like think about emotions as like neurochemicals, but for the most part, you're not feeling like little like particles in your brain floating around. You're feeling stuff like energy in your body, right? When you feel emotions. So the Qigong is all about just moving with that and feeling with it and transforming it into some other type of energy.
So it sounds like you're saying it's like a way to directly experience your emotions, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't feel the chemicals, but you can feel when there's a sense of fullness or strength, or even that there's a movement of energy that is directly connected to your emotions.
Yeah.
Are there like specific practices for people that feel that kind of heaviness or depression? I think I saw actually you have a video on YouTube, right?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Qigong for depression.
Yeah, great. So
Depression
people,
relief Qigong.
yeah, so actually people can look that up. It's better to do it than to describe it, right?
For the most part, yeah. But there's Qigong exercises specific to like working with the lung Qi.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
And so what is almost as you said, like Qigong, there must be, I don't know how many thousands of forms. It's diversified and grown over the years. It's mostly passed on, from master to student to, and then it's practiced all over China. It's apparently one of the most widespread health and wellness practices in the world.
Yeah.
Mostly in Qigong, mostly in China, still kind of new to the U.S. So naturally things will kind of diversify. Each teacher, like you said, Lee Holden will, he'll learn from 20, 30, 50 teachers and distill it into his practice and kind of, systemize and create it. And at the same time, try to become, stay true to the essence of it. Is that kind of the same model you're taking in your teachings? What is your kind of guiding principles or philosophy in how you teach?
Yeah. I like to make it flexible too. Lee's definitely my main teacher, so you can definitely like see his style coming through me. But basically moving forward, what I really see is combining it with more Western fitness and combining the Qigong with more things that come from yoga. Lee did a really good job like picking the best parts of Qigong and putting them into his system. But he always really wanted to like keep it Qigong, I think. And I think that was really smart. But I just think it goes so well with, there's all these amazing things in Western fitness, like besides, like just lifting really heavy things and all that. Like there's really healthy things you can do for your body. Right. And Qigong has a lot of these like almost physiotherapy, like, physically healing and repairing exercises. So it's not all about just energy and emotion, right? There's like all the stuff for the joints and the bones and the tendons. And so I think like if you mix that with some of the more Western stuff, I think you can get like a more complete East-West physical, spiritual system. But it's definitely a work in progress for me. But right now I'm teaching these like yoga, Qigong fusion classes that are pretty cool. People get kind of a nice workout, a lot of stretch, and then we end into the flows, and people really get an experience of energy. So it's nice for the Qigong people to get a little more of a workout. It's nice for the yoga people to like slow down at the end. Like, oh, what's this? Oh, there's energy. What is that?
Right.
Yeah. It's very hard to get yogis, like avid yogis sometimes, to try a Qigong class.
Right.
They know when they go into yoga, they know what they're going to get. They're used to getting it, I don't know if I want to try that Qi Gong thing.
Right. Right.
So I trick them.
Yeah, there you go. So, because you're right, it's I'm kind of in the same vein. I love to also combine and mix them, because I do see like in yoga often, the philosophy acknowledges energy. They talk about prana and even the 5 kosha model. The physical body, the energy body, the mind body, and so on. That is a central part of yoga, but mostly when you go to yoga class, you're not directly interacting with the energy, right? Maybe you breathe and maybe you do your stuff and you feel energized, or you feel energy moving. But you're right. In Qigong, there's so much more detail and there's so much more direct movement and application of the energy. And you're right, I do find them very compatible philosophically, but in practice, they do really benefit from each other. And you're right, a lot of Qigong, I think sometimes people go to Qigong once or twice and they say, yeah, I didn't feel anything, it was too slow, it was too light. And I agree, like I often would find I needed, more physical stimulation to actually activate the energy so that I could even feel something. And I always, I'm always sorry to hear that when people poo-poo the other, because they're really missing out on such a beautiful combination.
Yeah. Yoga's a lot. The original yoga is a lot more like Qigong than the yoga we normally practice.
That's a good point. Yeah. Right. And a lot of Qigong, like what Leah's saying, he'll tell us a lot of stories, about some of the wild and wacky stuff, that because Qigong is like imagine going to class and you're just like swallowing your own saliva, and then squeezing your butt, and then doing all this kind of odd stuff, which may be like really good for like an advanced practitioner who. But if that's your first exposure to Qigong, you're never gonna do it. This?
Swinging weights from your scrotum and all that.
Exactly. Yeah, I heard about that one. And so, you're right. Like, how do we make it palatable? Because you're right. There's fundamentalists in every tradition, whether it's yoga or Qigong. There's going to be people who say, "How dare you? Mix these things together? That's diluting it," and with good reason. There's a protectionism, there's a desire for authenticity, but at the same time, if people are being turned away and never getting a chance to experience it, it's also a real shame.
Yeah. Most people don't have time to do a weightlifting session and a yoga class and a Qigong class and a meditation every day, right? So the better job that people like us can do to like weave those things together for them and really create programs that just make it simple for people to like kind of hit all their movement and mindfulness needs in one place.
Right.
I think it's all the better.
Yeah. So with the people that you work with, like what are the common like problems that people come to you with that they're hoping to solve through Qigong?
That's a good question. I think mostly stress relief. I think it's mainly mental. People come because they get that sense of calm and that sense of ease. A lot of older people with joint issues. Found a lot of people, like this one guy came to my class and he was like super not into any of this kind of stuff, but I think we had one person from this certain street came and tried my Qigong class, and then she got her neighbors and they got their neighbors, and the next thing I knew I had their whole street coming to this yoga studio, and they'd all show up every week. But they finally got the one kind of stubborn guy who was like, I don't believe in any of that stuff. And he was scheduled for shoulder surgery, and it was like a month out. And after 2 Qigong classes, all his shoulder pain and immobility was just totally gone.
Wow.
And he canceled his surgery, and he couldn't believe it, and he was just totally sold, and he's been coming every class ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. So I've heard the stories. I had a student as well. It was a guy. It tends to be the guys that are the stubborn ones. His wife dragged him in, and he refused to like it. And he had, I think it was a shoulder issue, and he couldn't put his own jacket on.
Wow.
It was that bad. Like he had to have somebody come around and help him. And then after a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, and his doctor said he would never raise his hands above his head again. So one day he came in and. He had really been getting better. He could put his whole jacket on, and he told me, I went to the doctor and I said, "Hey doc, remember I can't move my arms?" He said, "How about now?" And he, and it is like those are the stories I think that are just so rewarding as a teacher.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And then what are some other things, maybe less dramatic, that people come in, maybe more subtle or internal changes that people experience?
Yeah, a lot of joint stuff. Older people come to classes and. Some people, they can't sit on the floor or something, and after a few classes, it's like, I've sat on the floor in 10 years, like, what's going on? Nice. Something interesting that I've been having more online is, as I've been doing more interviews and stuff like this, and so I share some of my, like, weird stories, like, I did LSD and I got psychic powers and shit like that. And so I get people, like, coming out of the woodwork, like, I've had this really weird, obscure, like, mental energetic problem or something that I haven't found anybody who knows anything how to deal with, and they'll ask if I want to talk, and so I try to talk it out with them. But for me, it's like this is totally new territory for like the society, right? Because nobody, if you're a psychiatrist and you want to study like anything to do with psychic or energetic stuff, it's like you're just immediately like kicked out of the psychiatrist community. You're a fraud, right?
Yep.
So it's a really shame that we've kind of, as a society, kept ourselves in the dark this whole time about anything like out of the ordinary. So I've been doing my best to kind of talk with these sorts of people and mostly just listen and then refer them to like several different sources of stuff with more knowledge than me. Like, maybe this book would be helpful for you to help you figure this out on your own. Maybe this is an interesting person you could talk to. But I'm definitely not at the point where I'm like, oh yeah, just do this Qigong exercise and everything will magically be better. But there's usually some Qigong that helps, but
right.
It's very complicated and mysterious.
Yeah.
It's been interesting, some of the stories.
Right.
Yeah.
We are in a world now, and you've done a great job of putting yourself out there online. And as new teachers, as new teachers out there who are wanting to share the benefits they've experienced, how has that been? How is it different? Teaching online or teaching on a video and teaching in a studio.
Yeah, it's really rewarding online because you make one thing, and then it goes up there, and people just keep watching it and interacting with it. So you get new comments and new likes and new people checking it out. So it's really rewarding to just know that this thing you made is just constantly improving people's lives and you don't have to touch it. That's pretty cool.
Right.
And then all the strangers that you get to like have find your things, and that's definitely very rewarding. But teaching in person is nice because you get the chance to build a community, right? And that was something I didn't expect when I was like just fantasizing about having a teaching career. I never really thought about like we're gonna like know each other for a long time and it's gonna be like a community and we're gonna like hang out and it's gonna be kind of fun. I was always kind of thinking about my perception of teachers as like you're up here and the people are down here and you're just kind of talking at them,
Right.
They're making your playlists and everything, But it was very cool to like feel that connection and continual reciprocity and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's also a big cultural difference that I've noticed. Like in some of my old teachers, there was this real staging and this real mystique. Everybody would sit and close their eyes, and the teacher would kind of come and suddenly appear, and then they'd close the training and they'd disappear, and you'd never hang out with them at lunchtime, right? And Lee's really broken the mold on that. He's constantly chatting and joking and available and very down to earth. And I think as Westerners, we really appreciate and expect that kind of transparency and to really just kind of, not try to make it, this very mystical, magical thing and to really bring it down to earth. So, it sounds like you've been doing the same kind of style as well.
Yeah, it's kind of by accident.
Yeah.
I think part of me tried to do the I'm a teacher thing, and it just felt so weird. I was like, oh, okay, we're we're not doing that. Yeah.
And so as doing this, so is this like your full-time gig?
Yeah, it is.
Great. So it's what has been like for others who like are wanting to maybe transition from part-time to full-time or or thinking about that in that fantasy stage, like what have you gone through? Like what is some words of wisdom for those who are thinking of that?
It's hard. But I think anything you do for a living is hard, so you shouldn't let that hold you back. It takes time to turn it into money, so there's a lot, like if you're trying to teach Qigong, I would actually recommend if you're trying to choose, do I do the yoga teacher training or the Qigong? I would choose the Qigong because there's less Qigong teachers now. I think the demand is starting to build and the supply is like kind of catching up. And yoga is kind of probably a little bit the opposite. But the first thing you got to do is just get people to try it, right? Because you can write about it and you can make all that stuff. You can make your resume look amazing. Like nobody's gonna care because they don't know what it is or how to pronounce it, right?
That's the first thing.
So you got to get them to try it. And actually, what I figured out is it's less about the owner of the studio because they're no matter what gonna be like, but it's about their students. If you can show them that like their students want it, right? You got because the owners of yoga studios, gyms, wherever you're trying to teach, like they're looking at bottom lines, right? Like, are my students going to want to do this? So what actually first got me going was I sent a mass email to every yoga studio and gym in the county. And I was just like, I want to teach a free 1-month Qigong series to your students. And they don't have to pay, you don't have to pay me. I just want people to try it. And if they like it, we can talk about maybe having a permanent class or something. Out of like 25 places I emailed, I got 1 email back. And so that studio gave me a chance. And we tried our 4-week series. And people loved it. We had like 2 dozen people in the class. And they came every week. And so we put it on the schedule. And then once that was on my resume, other places would be like, oh, he's teaching there. That must mean people are going and paying money.
Got it.
And they're a little more willing to think about it.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get over that initial thing, right? We're talking about energy and all this like weird stuff. It's like, so are people going to lose weight doing this? Are they building muscle? Like what are we trying to sell people?
It's hard to really measure what you're getting out of it.
Yeah. So it's so subjective. So people got to try it, right? And then tell studio owners like, that was amazing. How do we keep that coming back?
It's such an interesting thing, you know, as a side note, is like, you know, why do we want to lose weight or build muscle?
Yeah.
Well, we think we're going to feel better, right?
Yeah.
But
that's true.
You can almost, it's such a shortcut with Qigong. It's like, hey, you can actually feel better without getting a rippling 6-pack or without losing 50 pounds, right?
Yeah.
It's really an illusion too, you know, that we'll be happy when. And
it's very immediately gratifying.
Exactly.
Like you can, 10 minutes out of your day and you just feel like amazing.
Yeah. And so you're so giving away something for free at the beginning seems to be important, you know, to let people try it, you know, or lowering the barrier of entry, you know, to let people try it and then grow it. And where are you now? Like what is your, you know, your weekly schedule look like? You know,
it's big. Yeah, I teach like 12 classes a week. I got in with this kind of like really fancy retreat center that just opened up near Silicon Valley.
1440 Multiversity.
Yeah. And this is a beautiful campus, and they have all these big names. Deepak Chopra comes there, teaches, and Elizabeth Gilbert, and so.
What do you do there? Do you teach?
I teach Qigong. I teach yoga, Qigong fusion. I do tea ceremony and healing sound ceremony, things like that.
Nice.
But they basically have it like there's these supplementary classes, so people who are staying there, maybe you're taking a workshop with Deepak Chopra, and on your break, because you've been kind of sitting around listening to lecture all day, it's like you want a yoga class or something.
Nice.
So they have people like me there, like just running classes all day, basically.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a real boon to the Santa Cruz neighborhood, because we have there's 9 yoga teachers for every yoga student here. So some place was like, we're going to bring students in and you can teach them. And all the yoga teachers, oh my God, please hire us. But it was really funny when they opened up. I opened the paper and they had the job fair, and it had started an hour ago, and I just happened to. I never read the newspapers. It was really weird.
Wow, synchronicity.
So I just race over there, and they're like, "Oh, finally, someone who's not a yoga teacher." Like 10,000 yoga teachers that applied, and it was like, "What? A Qigong teacher? Nice."
I think you're right on. You know, because yoga has enjoyed this incredible growth, right? Like I don't know if you saw the Yoga in America study.
Yeah.
So in 2012, they did a study, and there was like, God, I numbers now. Maybe there was like 10 million people, and then now it's doubled. So now there's like 20 million, or it's like 4 to 8 million. Anyway, it's on this exponential growth. But yeah, when will it peak? Nothing can grow forever, and it seems like I get the same sense that it's very saturated, especially in places like in California, Oregon, where I'm from. And people are also seeing the downsides. You know, maybe people are getting injured and they need something gentle, or they need something a little different. So it seems like, being a Qigong teacher allows you to become, to stand out, like you said, in a crowded market.
Yeah.
So and so how would you do that? Would you, what resistance would you face? Like when because that's the other thing, when it's new, people don't trust it yet.
Yeah.
So what else, would you do to help people get over that get to that experience?
Yeah, it's tough. I think part of it is you build a reputation for yourself. So it's like, even if people don't know what Qigong is, like they've seen my face all over town and posters and stuff. Nice. It's like, oh, Nick Loffree, I hear his Qigong classes are amazing. So once you build that momentum, right, and like a little bit of word spreads, then it's like a lot easier to do things. And then it's also like, if you can identify or just link up with, like there's certain people in every community who are kind of like the leaders, like people trust them to like tell them what's cool, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna have this guy come and he's gonna teach Qigong. You guys don't know what it is, but it's gonna be great, and this guy's great, and they'll trust that person when they're saying that, right? So if you prove yourself to just a few people, right, eventually one of those people that experiences your thing is gonna be one of those kind of leaders, and they'll get you into something else, and you'll meet more people, and you'll find another one of those leaders, and they'll get you in. So,
nice.
Yeah, you just got to keep sharing, even if it's free for a long time.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what is your vision with Bionic QiGong and like with your company and like with your teachings?
Yeah. Well, my ultimate vision is to start my own X-Men Academy.
Sweet.
X-Men and X-Women.
Yeah. X-Human.
X-Human. Yeah, maybe that'll be the name of it. I really pulled the Bionic QiGong thing just like out of my butt. Like, it's like, oh, I need to buy like a website domain.
Right.
And I need it like right now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what would be a cool name? Bionic QiGong, because bio, energy, bionic.
Yeah, I like it.
So, but so many people I tell it about are like, you have a prosthetic limb? Like, what?
Oh,
What's going on? So I'm like, I should probably change that down the road. I have this habit when I start businesses where I like focus so much on the name though that I'm just trying to like let the name part go. My vision is like the X-Men Academy. So if you don't know the story of X-Men, it's Professor Xavier, this like guy with like psychic powers or something, basically learns to use his powers in a productive way, and then realizes that there's all these other people with like these mutated genes. This is the X for like the chromosome. That have like these supernatural abilities, but they don't know how to control them or use them. And usually in this show, it's like mostly like teenagers. But so he goes and like finds them and takes them to his academy and like trains them to like integrate their abilities in a really cool way. So I kind of see something like that down the road, where like we're doing a lot of research on like things that maybe a lot of mainstream researchers and scientists are kind of afraid to touch because they don't want their reputation tarnished as a scientist.
Right.
But I'm obviously some kind of pseudoscientist, a Qigong teacher, so I'm allowed to touch those things, and people can hate on it, and it's fine. Or like actually teaming up with scientists would be amazing. But yeah, I really just see just the weird stuff, just finding all the odd things that people are having trouble integrating or aren't being met by mainstream health and things like that, and just finding like the strange ways to fix strange problems. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a lot of people that have these kind of extrasensory abilities, that are extremely intuitive or extremely sensitive, and it's almost this two-edged sword, right? Where it may be a real benefit in one part of their life, but an incredible detriment in another if they don't know how to manage or control it, whether it's their mind or their body or their energy or emotions. And there's even, I'm sure you're aware of Lee's, the Superhuman video project.
Yeah.
Because you're right, like it's not only just people on a spectrum of a normal range of human, but there are people, that are able to light newspapers on fire with their qi, and that are able to electrocute other people, and it really does sound wacky and wild, but this really exists, and there's a documentary coming out which is sharing more about the potentials of our electromagnetic human system and what it can do, just like what can happen inside of our cell phone, is incredible. What can be done with technology, and this kind of human technology, I think will continue to grow and move from this pseudoscience and this kind of out there wacky stuff to something that can be documented scientifically. Yeah. So I think you're not alone in that. I think a lot of people will be drawn to that vision, and I think you're going to have quite a thriving X-Men Academy.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't
I hope I don't have to be bald in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
On my way there.
There's always an origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's not people shooting fireballs, out of their hands, but finding, uses for their unique differences, and in a way that they can live up to their potential, perhaps. I think that sounds really exciting.
Yeah. Lee was telling me about he used to coach this FBI informer. So this woman who had psychic abilities, and I think she was clairvoyant, so she could like see things from a distance. So the FBI would come to her once in a while and be like, "Oh, there's been like this murder or this kidnapping. Can you help us like find the location or whatever?" And so she'd go into her state and she'd find it, but it'd be like horrible. It'd be like she'd like see the murder taking place and she'd feel all the anger and all the fear and all this awful stuff. And so she'd be like just out of commission for like a month after each time she did it. So she could only do it once in a while. But Lee started teaching her Qigong and specific, kind of like the Qigong he taught for me, the Wei Qi kind of stuff, protective energy, to help her balance herself. And she just found like she'd go into that state and she'd experience all that stuff, and then she'd come back and actually like have tools to clear that energy out, like the energy that wasn't hers, and then rebuild her kind of barrier. And so she kind of bounce back a lot quicker. So
nice.
Yeah, I just wonder how many things out there are like that
Right.
just aren't in mainstream thought.
Yeah. That's really exciting. And do you like working with young people or with kids as well?
I think so. I think I'd like working with kids. I have before, but they have a lot of energy, so it's hard to get them to slow down and do the Qigong.
Right.
But I think I get approached like once a week by somebody who wants me to do some sort of kids Qigong.
Right.
They're just like, "Oh, the kids would love you because you're funny." And I'm like, okay, but I really like the idea of like mixing Qigong into sort of popular culture, like like you're a Jedi or Kung Fu Panda, and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, I have a lot of
use their imagination.
Yeah, like I think it's a lot of fun to like do like a camp where you dress up and do your Qigong and you're like a Jedi or stuff like that. But I think I'm more drawn to like young adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they like at a certain age where you're mortal, but you haven't gone and gotten so many horrible issues yet. Like I love, people who can like kind of take it seriously,
Right.
But aren't necessarily like
Not cynical yet.
all the way at the end of life. I'd love to like support people in the earlier stages of their life to like bring it out without necessarily it always being like little kids that you're like brainwashing with Kung Fu Panda characters or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can see that. Well, is there any other message you wanted to share, or anything that you want to put out there from your teachings that you think people would benefit from?
Yeah. Well, here's just one thing I've been thinking about lately is so in Chinese medicine there's kind of two main sources of qi. And one of them is the qi that you get from Qigong, and it's like the qi from the air, right? So we do all this deep breathing, and we do all this movement and collect this qi from the air around us. But once that goes into the body, it wants to mix with a different type of qi that we get from our food, right? And I call that the gu qi. Everybody wants Gucci. Right?
Is it like Louis Vuitton, Gucci?
Yeah, you want Louis Vuitton qi, you want Gucci, you want Prada qi. No, but the gu means grain, so it's kind of like your food qi. So there's qi that you get from your food, and it wants to mix with the qi from the air and the qi from the Qigong. So it's really important to, if you are doing a practice with yoga, meditation, Qigong, to also have a really good diet and be putting good things in your body, like high quality teas and meals and stuff. So those two really work well together, and I think some people like want to go down a path where they just do one, but they work so amazing together. Right? And you can't do the Qigong and then go eat unhealthy food and be like, "Oh, this Qigong isn't working because I don't feel great all the time." Right?
Got it.
They got to work together. So I think that's important.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. So where can people find out whether they're a future X-Men or a young adult looking for this, or anybody who's looking for the benefits of Qigong? Where can they find you?
Yeah, they go to my website, bionicqigong.com. And Qigong is spelled with Q, so QiGong. And if you just scroll down on that, I've got lots of free videos. And then there's actually like this personality quiz thing, which is kind of cool. So you do the personality quiz, and it tells you like which of your organs has sort of the most active energy in your day-to-day life, and then prescribes you like a Qigong routine that sort of balances that energy.
Nice.
So
great.
yeah, it's a good place to start.
Fantastic. Yeah. And and I've seen you on YouTube and Instagram and so forth as well. And so we can link all those things up. And I really appreciate your time today, Nick. And thanks for sharing your message.
Yeah, man.
All right. And thank you so much for watching. And you can comment and share and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks so much.